to approve the agenda?
So
Second.
All right, the motion was made by Councilmember Klanowski, seconded by Councilmember McGarvey. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any nays? Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. All right, so next, we will move to the public presentations, proclamations portion. So let's head down and for introduction of new employees.
Thank you so much. I want to introduce Mahmoud Ahmed. He was recently hired on May 19th as a Program Assistant 1 in the Administration Department, Human Resources Division. He recently earned his bachelor's degree in Business Administration with a concentration in HR, Human Resources Management from Southern New Hampshire University. He brings valuable experience from his ongoing role as a Human Resources Specialist in the U.S. Army Reserves, where he has been responsible for managing personnel records, ensuring data accuracy in HR systems, and supporting both soldiers and leadership with HR matters. In the 2 months that he has been with the City of Brooklyn Park, he has exemplified our customer service excellence standards, providing exceptional customer service to fellow employees, candidates, and the public. We're looking forward to have his skills and perspective that he brings from his time in the Army Reserves, and I'm excited to have him join the HR team. Please welcome.
Mayor Winston, council members, good evening. Mark Bruley, Police Chief. It's my pleasure to introduce Caden Sandberg. He was hired as a cadet intern in August of 2024 and recently was hired as a police cadet on May 28th. He graduated from this spring from the University of Minnesota with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. For the last 6 years, Caden has also worked at Rush Creek Golf Club and maintenance. Caden enjoys fishing, hockey, hiking, watching crime documentaries, and spending time with his friends and families. Please welcome Caden.
Thank you and congratulations to our new employees. We're happy to have you on board. A special proclamation proclaiming July 26, 2025 as Liberian Independence Day in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, and celebrating the 178th anniversary of Liberia's Declaration of Independence. Whereas July 26, 2025 marks the 178th anniversary of Liberia's Declaration of Independence, and whereas Liberia, which means land of the free, was the first African nation on the African continent to gain its independence on July 26, 1847. And whereas Liberians living in the city of Brooklyn Park and in Minnesota are making enormous contributions toward the development of the workforce, cultural diversity, arts, and economic growth, and whereas Brooklyn Park is proud to be called home by one of the largest populations of Liberians outside the Republic of Liberia, and has greatly benefited from many residents who have taken an active role in local organizations, city commissions, and city government. And Whereas Brooklyn Park recognizes a rich and strong Liberian community that is making our city a thriving, vibrant, and diverse community. And whereas Liberia's Independence Day is a day to honor and highlight the current and historical relationship between the United States and Liberia, and the vital contributions Liberians make to the United States, to Minnesota, and to Brooklyn Park. And whereas the organization of Liberians in Minnesota is organizing community events for the July 26th weekend to celebrate the holiday. Now, therefore, I, Hollis Winston, Mayor of the City of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim July 26, 2025 shall be observed as Liberian Independence Day in the City of Brooklyn Park. I want to say a few words. I mean, the African heritage community is large in Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center. It's growing throughout the state, but the Liberian community has also been extremely key within that diaspora. And I think in terms of the number of businesses, the homes, the contributions that have been made, I think in many ways the community has helped stabilize Brooklyn Park. I know we went through some difficult times even through the housing crisis. And I think a number of the people who were buying those homes were from the Liberian community. They were also building businesses quickly in Brooklyn Park. So I think when we look at it from that angle, it is true that the Liberian community has made some enormous contributions to our city. And I also think if we look at it from a historical perspective, I know Liberia was in the news because there was a comment made at the White House to them. I will say this, the history of Liberia is in many ways intertwined with what we have experienced as African Americans in Minnesota. And I think many people overlook that particular connection that we have, and folks don't know. Many of the former slaves went back to Liberia and helped found that country of Liberia. So there's a lot of history between not only America, but between our particular communities. So when we talk about Liberian Independence Day, I think that's incredibly important, because when you look at the history of what Africa dealt with, or the African diaspora, even, you talk about Haiti, Jamaica, you talk about Nigeria, other countries, I think it was very much a struggle for people to get any form of independence, and the fact that Liberia did it so early. And I know it has not been an easy ride, but it's never an easy ride when you are actively fighting for and declaring your independence. So I think in terms of persistence and a beacon to the world of what it looks like to take responsibility for your own future, I think people need to look beyond just the celebration of Liberian Independence Day, but realize that historically they made a statement when it was unpopular for them to be making that statement. And all the honor has to be given for that, along with the myriad contributions they have made as a community. So, thank you. All right, next we have an update from CCX. A couple of folks that I recognize, so if you guys could introduce yourselves and then head into the presentation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, City staff. My name is Shannon Slatton-Schwartz. I'm the Executive Director of CCX Media. It's a position I've been in for about 2.5 years, but I've been with the organization for almost 18, primarily working in the news department. And joining me, Dave Kaiser, our Government and Community Affairs Liaison. Familiar face as well. Dave, how many years have you been with our organization?
About 40 now.
About 40, so he's been covering Brooklyn Park. Wow, very thankful to be here. I hope today just to give you a brief overview of some of the different ways CCX Media serves our community and to tell you a little bit about some of the challenges that we face. All right, first, the map on your screen. CCX Media's coverage area includes the 9 cities north of 394 and west of Highway 100. It's an area that has about 350,000 people, so if you compare that to other PEG channels across the state, we're number 2. We're right between Minneapolis and St. Louis. We were founded, we were called Northwest Community Television, and now we're called CCX Media, which stands for Connected Community Experience. And the story goes that 40 years ago, our 9 communities came together because there were local stories to tell that were not being told. And so we continue to tell those stories today. And speaking of stories, our news department is a department that you're probably familiar with. We have a traditional news department that puts out stories every day online and on our channel. And you might be surprised to learn that some of our most viewed stories are actually development related. People are very interested to know what's going on at the end of their street, what development's coming in, and bonus points if it's a restaurant, because those stories do really well. Here's 2 examples of popular stories in Brooklyn Park that generated a high number of views. One was the golf course at Edinburgh, USA, transitioning over. That story was at the beginning of the year. And the other was on Highway 252 freeway conversion plan. We've done many stories on that project over the past few years. We have a sports department. We're very fortunate there, and we cover high school sports. Not only do we get out and broadcast live events, but we do features, which do pretty well. Here is a feature that generated over 10,000 views on Park Center Spring Sports, featuring the boys volleyball team. First year for that sport, and Park Center's team did really well, making it to state tournament. For cities, Dave's worked in that department quite a bit, so I'm going to let him talk about that.
Thank you, Shannon. Good evening, everyone, and it is a pleasure to speak to you today to talk a little bit about CCX Media. And one of the big reasons we exist is for you right here and transparency of government meetings. And not only on the channels, which again you see some of the views that we see at the different meetings, and we're covering about a meeting a week on average here in the city of Brooklyn Park, but also streaming meetings, able to view meetings video on demand at a later point as well. Some of the other stories you see that we work with cities very closely on. Shannon mentioned restaurants, and you see some of our restaurant features of some of the cultural restaurants here in town. Again, very favorable response and getting people to go to those businesses and try them out. And I get the pleasure of meeting with the mayor on an every 2-month basis to conduct the mayor's minutes, a chat to find out what's new in the city and give people a reason to stay in touch. Other things that we do as well are the history special we have done for the city. And again, candidate forums, partnering with the League of Women Voters. So our city work for the city of Brooklyn Park and the other 8 cities is an ongoing effort.
Thanks, Dave. You might not be familiar. One of the best kept secrets that we have is we still operate a traditional public access department. And so if you are a resident in the city of Brooklyn Park, you can come to our station. We'll teach you how to make television or a podcast, which is really popular right now. And then you can create it, and it goes out on our channel. One of the podcasts in the corner, she speaks to ladies that come in and do what I would call a mom podcast. We also have Northwest City Politics, you can see there in the corner, and Three Rivers Park District moved their podcast production to our studios, and they produce The Wandering Naturalist. So residents created 595 programs in 2024. We also have a creative services finally, and this was our last department that was kind of founded because we would get requests that really didn't fit in anywhere else. And that's where we would have cities and nonprofits that would come to us with a video need, and we said that's something we can do. So our State of the Cities falls under this umbrella. Sometimes a city will come to us and have need for something to be recorded to be used only internally, somewhat video on demand. So we've done that as well. So we work with school districts and nonprofits in our creative services arm. And I think one thing that folks before me were really, really smart on is that we are available just about anywhere. We were not content just to be a cable television station. It was more important to be relevant. And so we are out on websites, on over-the-top apps. So if you don't have cable, and we know most of you don't, you can still download our app and stay just as relevant as before. We have email marketing, so our purpose is really just to get the information out and be relevant to the people at home. And finally, in your packet tonight, you have a one-page handout that we've been showing to cities that's titled Funding and Policy Needed to Save Community Media. Our funding is going away. We are founded off of cable franchise fees, so each person that cuts the cord on traditional cable television, we lose that revenue. We've lost about 35% of our revenue since 2017, And we have absorbed those losses by eliminating positions, trying to have a few channels of sustainable revenue, and we've developed a strategic plan to help guide us as we shrink and as we plan for the declining revenue. We've also been very active with the state legislature, working legislatively on a solution as well. We've testified several times on behalf of PEG channels. I think Dave's going to lean into that just a little bit more.
If you're interested to find more information, we have contact with the League of Minnesota Cities that has been a great partner, especially on the broadband and franchising broadband. So that is obviously what is replacing cable TV for a lot of people that they're streaming their programming. But those broadband companies do not pay a franchise fee to use that right-of-way in your city. And in fact, this is something that's coming up at other commissions and cities right now. In the end of July, the city of Woodbury will be hearing some discussion about franchising broadband companies. So Shannon will keep you informed about that, and certainly the city of Brooklyn Park has 2 members on our cable commission, so they can keep you informed as well. There is an organization called MACTA. It is a Minnesota-based organization of both city communications people and community television systems like ours. And a great part about the city of Brooklyn Park is you have a fine facility like CCX Media, and at the end of the month we will be hosting the statewide conference here at our facility at 6900 Winnetka Avenue North. So certainly you are all welcome to attend, and there will be some specific workshops to talk about the future of franchising and also some of our work at the state capitol. Shannon and I have spent many hours down at the state capitol over the past few years to look at some state efforts around getting this funding modernized. And again, we have not been fortunate the past couple of years in those efforts, but we know it takes time. But we think a key to the effort is cities. And again, we encourage cities to look at franchising as an opportunity, because broadband companies are coming in and they are building in your community under no franchise, which means they can pick where they would like to serve. So if they would like to serve a certain portion of the city and not the other portion of the city, that is something they can do without a franchise. So we encourage the city to learn more about that. Please ask us questions. We'd be happy to answer them. And join us at the conference right here in your hometown, end of July.
And thank you for your support. We're happy to answer any questions now or at a later time.
Thank you. Are there any particular questions? Councilmember Garvin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you folks for that great presentation. Just a couple of questions. One, what are the numbers when you look at it for folks downloading the app and participating that way on CCX?
We have all of those numbers in our annual report, which I'm happy to pass along to you. I can't tell you off the top of my head because we're on 5 different apps.
Okay.
So I don't know that directly. But we do try the best we can to keep up with our analytics from not only YouTube and Facebook and website and over-the-top apps. So I can tell you our website gets over 1 million views every year. So we are relevant. We work really hard on that.
So it's not a separate CCX app, you're available on the other streaming apps?
And you have to download the app on those apps. And then you can go there and scroll through city council meetings to watch which one you want, or stories, or sports as well.
Do that. Second question, are you legally prohibited then from running ads or providing advertisements?
Great
Are you able to do
question.
that?
Great question. We don't run ads on our community access channels. Those aren't. We can't run ads on those, but we can on CCX1, which we have over the years. People cutting cable and that audience shrinking. It's not as much as we would like. We've also done some work in sponsorships, trying to go out and find community businesses to sponsor our content. And what we found is that we resonate with the same types of small businesses that might support your hockey teams or your sports teams, or people that believe in supporting the community and attaching their name to a community product. So that's good. Unfortunately, it's not tipping the scales on sustainability yet, but we have hope.
And then finally, do you have any way of tracking how many of those 500 plus podcasts are actually listened to?
When people create a podcast on in our studio. We put it on our channel, but as far as dissemination on other platforms, it's kind of up to them. So they're the ones that can market and do whatever they want to with that product. So short answer, no.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Klinowski.
Thank you, Mayor. No questions. I just want to say thank you. In the time where media is under attack sometimes, it's really great to have local, community-based news to keep us informed. So thank you for what you do.
So, yeah, I'm going to second that. I think, you know, I don't always get along with the media, which means the media is probably doing a good job. But thank you for, you know, the local stories that you do. I think often you're getting facts out there that other people are just not getting out there from that local perspective. So I think that's important. I do feel for you in terms of the diminishing revenue sources. So I think maybe, I don't make any promises on this because this all has to fit within our larger approach as a city, but I'll see if anything does make sense with us, if there's anything that we can do. But again, we got to put that in with all of our priorities. And, you know, as a city, we're not the, it seems like a Northwest region thing. We're not as flush as perhaps we should be, and we're working on that. So, but thank you again for that coverage, and if we can do more with you to get the word out about what we're doing in Brooklyn Park, we're looking forward to that. It's, you know, the more we can educate residents in terms of what we're actually doing, you know, versus the conspiracy theories that seem to abound, that would be, I think it's a good public service. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so next it looks like we're going to have a presentation on Minneapolis Northwest Tourism. Director Gladden and Leslie Wright, President and CEO of Minneapolis Northwest Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll do a very brief intro and then turn things over to Ms. Wright, whose team does an amazing work, marketing Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, and the tourism and recreation opportunities we have. From our perspective, the foundation that allows us to do this is a lodging tax, 3% lodging tax that gets applied to each hotel stay in the cities of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. This is a tool that's enabled through the state's economic development chapter, local lodging taxes. It allows us to fund a convention and visitors bureau, often known as a destination marketing organization. And the intent here is to promote the city as a tourism convention center. And more importantly, this has a secondary effect of economic boost to our restaurants and shops. So that's why it exists in the economic development lens, and it's something a lot of different cities throughout the state are able to employ. One thing I just want to frame up as we have good ideas in terms of what can this lodging tax be used for, how can we support as the city this work. Really it's about marketing. So marketing, visitors guide, social media. They do have staff that goes out and tracks events to come here, such as Gus Macker. But also, more importantly, one thing, or things that we cannot use this for, are our standard capital improvement plan. We can't use these dollars to beautify the area. There is a little bit of flexibility in terms of public art, if we can make that tie directly to marketing and tourism. And then some communities have done special legislation, similar to what we've done with tax income and financing, to expand that use as well. So I just put that disclaimer out as well. So with that lens, I'm going to turn things over to Leslie to talk a little bit about Minneapolis Northwest itself.
Good evening, Mayor Winston and City Council members. Thank you for having me. My name is Leslie Wright, and I'm the President and CEO of Minneapolis Northwest Tourism, which represents the cities of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. Thank you, Mr. Gladhill, for talking about some of the things of how we're funded. But I just want to tell you a little bit about who we are. We're a destination marketing organization that focuses on the promotion, management, and development of a specific travel or tourism destination. So a DMO, as he talked about, their primary role is to attract visitors, improve the visitor experience, and ensure sustainable tourism growth. DMOs typically represent a city or a region. We represent Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, and they work in collaboration with local businesses, governments, and other stakeholders to foster tourism and drive economic development. When we think about all that we do, we have a small and mighty team. I'm on that team. Jen Durdall Johnson is our Destination Sales Director and Community Engagement Coordinator. Emily Kanakua is our Administrative Assistant, and honestly the person that holds the glue together and does pretty much everything. And Mary Lauer is our Marketing Consultant. So it's 4 of us. We have actually 3 full-time staff that manage the organization. We've already talked about how we are funded, so I won't go into this. This is just so you know that it is not paid by residents. Many people feel that this tax, the lodging tax, is paid by residents. It is actually paid by the visitors in the hotel. So that's an important note when we look at what we can and cannot do. What we measure occupancy and average daily rates of hotels because that's where we get our funding from. So that's an important thing to note. But we also analyze the spending in Brooklyn Center and Brooklyn Park so that we can know if we've made an impact. These days, a cell phone can tell you pretty much anything. And there are many companies that give us data, and we have one company's article that gives us data on how much spending is taking place. We can look at it this year versus last year. We can compare to determine if we're making strides in getting people to come to the area as well as to spend in the area. What we're doing now, we do a lot of marketing and we do a lot of promoting of events. So we focus on media. I have been in CCX a few times. Media specifically for events in both cities, Pedal Jam, Eagle Fest, Liberian Day, and Gus Macker. Newsletters and blogs to make sure that our constituents and our residents know what's going on. Community engagement and communication with both cities. We meet regularly with the cities so that we can have an understanding of what we're doing and what needs to be done. Quarterly hotel sales directors meetings so that we can keep updated on what's happening in our hotels. Social activities with our board members and our stakeholders. Proactive selling is what Mr. Gladhill talked about. We go out and try to get conventions to come here, albeit small. We work closely with the Heritage Center so that we can try to bring business to this area. Lead qualification and distribution to make sure our hotels in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, I don't know what just clicked, maybe you all will tell me to keep going back to what we're doing. So lead qualification and distribution to make sure that our hotels are getting those leads that want to and are interested in our area. And then Gus Macker. Gus Macker takes up quite a bit of our time, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. What's upcoming? A potential board retreat so that our board will be fully aware of how they can be more engaged. A rebranding of MNW is just something that we are talking about now and we'll look at for next year. As you know, Minneapolis Northwest Tourism is our name, and many people will say, think we're Minneapolis because we have Minneapolis in our name. So I'm not saying that that's not an attraction, that is, but what I am saying is how do we elevate Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center as Minneapolis Northwest Tourism? And thank you publicly to, I don't want to say Tim, Mr. Gladhill about how he's championing some of this with us so we can do something like 2 Brooklyns, 1 visit, 1 vision. How can we really work together to make sure that people know that we are Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center? We're also looking at a familiarization tour. We call that in the industry a FAM tour, and bringing event planners, to Brooklyn Park or Brooklyn Center, and showing them the area, showing them what we have, so that they can know how far we are from the cities, from the airports, etc., so they can bring meetings here. Updating our insider's guide, which is what we send to meeting planners. Implementing a board newsletter so that the board in between meetings, since we only meet 4 times a year, will know what's going on. And then after Gus Macker leaves, August 4th, we're going to start working on an ROI for Gus Macker to make sure that it is something that we can continue moving forward. Promoting tourism, we do that through, excuse me, our social media, Google ads. We do advertise on Google so that we can drive people to our website, newsletters and blogs, conferences and events, communicating with event planners, and then we also offer, as limited as sometimes we have to, the free marketing and promotion of events for our area events and our restaurants. We have worked with CCS again on bringing many of the restaurants to the forefront and bringing many of those things so that people can know what we're doing and what they're doing specifically. Engaging council members. And I have to give a shout out to Councilmember Page, who met with me just to get to know me, not for anything on an agenda, so thank you. But how can we engage council members in what we do? Attending events. People don't want to see me, they love to see you. So attending events that are especially attended by many of our residents. Tell us what you're hearing. I will be attending the town hall meetings, but it is important if you hear something that is outside of those, let us know. Continue to learn about what we do. This is just continuous. Gus Macker sponsorships, shameless plug, sponsorships and contacts if you have any. We certainly would love them so that we can carry on the success of Gus Macker. Understanding the state statute, and Mr. Gladhill talked about that earlier, but that's a really important thing about what we do. You all are giving me more hints. And then subscribing to our monthly newsletters and following us on social media so you will know what's happening. A quick Gus Macker update. Many of you know Gus Macker is going to be here August 2nd and 3rd. It's a 3-on-3 outdoor basketball tournament. Even though it says 3-on-3, we need 4 people just in case one person has to be subbed in. It's a national event held throughout the country, and this is the 51st year, and the 50th year was the first year it was back in Minneapolis. Minneapolis Northwest sponsored it for Brooklyn Park. Last year, we had many local partnerships. We can still use more. And we gave $37,500 to 6 nonprofits last year, and we need additional sponsorships, so we will be able to support those nonprofits again this year. And volunteers. We are doing very well on our volunteers, but we do need more. It's a tournament that will be all day. It's right down the street at North Hennepin Community College, and it will be a great event for family fun and a little basketball. Any questions? And I don't know, I didn't time myself, but I tried to be quick.
Any questions from council? I'll just say thank you for, for stepping into this role, moving it forward. I think it is important that I think a lot of times people think that business just comes to the city, right? So I think you helping to highlight what makes us unique as a city is incredibly important to filling up those hotel rooms and helping people understand what we do, but also just folks coming in and understanding what we do, whether it's the farmers market or some of the other programs that we have. So I want to thank you for that piece. I'll leave it at that for now. I see that Councilman Page or a question.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for coming to see us and explaining to us how you're helping get some attention to our city for more. It's just a really basic question, only because I don't know this question. When you do your tax, for the room tax, is there any difference in a single night stay versus a lengthier stay? Is it the same tax per night? Is that how that works?
It's the same tax per night. And we don't do it, to be very honest with you. That is done by the hotels, sent directly to the cities, and then the city sends the appropriate amount to us.
So then how do we audit that?
Well, we are looking at that. That's a very, right now there is not an audit process in place.
Okay, so something you're working on to see.
Yeah, and from the city's perspective, and I know a lot of cities that have lodging taxes are looking into this. There's great software that can track some of this too. I still think it's a partnership on, we want to make sure we're collecting the right things. And then to your other question in terms of, is there any difference in night or length of stay? Statutory, it's capped at 3%, and that's what we collect. So it's just 3% on your receipt. If you go into any area, some states have larger caps, you'll see that local tax on it, that lodging tax. There are some communities in Minnesota that have got special legislation to do more than 3%. So, but the baseline statute is 3% of your overall bill.
Just, if you don't mind, Mayor, if I could just ask one more question. So do we engage in conversations with those, I know a lot of those hotel groups or restaurateurs, it's an entity, right? Do we have conversation or open communication on like, hey, we would love to put, a short-term rental or a short-term, like a express hotel, motel, whatever, up to some of the living hotels. I'm going to say Marietta only because my daughter works there, but so like you have a Spring Hill and you have a Town Place and you have a whatever. To say, hey, we really, for our criteria to be in your city, we need to have this type of restaurant, this type of activity or whatever, those conversations that we're actively having with those groups. And is that something we can work together on?
Yes, we are having those conversations, and we talk with the hotel specifically, and then they take that information back to their ownership group. The one thing that comes across loud and clear here recently is around sit-down restaurants. People that stay in hotels, that's not something new, you all have all heard that. People stay in hotels, and when we think about when we go and stay in a hotel, you want things that are easily accessible to get to and enjoy when you're not in your mood. So they talk about that a lot, around what is there to do if people are to come here, how easily is it to get there? Are things walkable? I think it's very acceptable right now to not have everything walkable, because in some cities you're walkable and in some cities you're not. However, how easily is it and how far do people have to go? A resident can be, a visitor can become a resident can welcome a visitor, and it's a vicious circle and a very weird, just a weird circle around who influences what and what comes first, the chicken or the egg. But it's critical, which is why I go to the town hall meetings, for residents to know how the important role that they play of making visitors feel welcome. And we've all gone places, and when you don't feel welcome, you don't have to go back. There are other options for you to do. So we want them to feel welcome and to come back here. And I just attended a convention and got back on Saturday. And it was really centered around destinations. And we talked a lot about welcome programs, and many people are working on welcome programs with their businesses and residents to make sure that they recognize the importance of tourism.
And did you learn from that event what's really driving a lot of cities? What is the destination? What is the thing?
It's attractions and things to do. It's really what can you do outside. The convention was in Chicago, and there were over 2,000 destination marketing professionals from all over the country that were there. But it's things to do when you're not needed that drives people to come back. The diversity, the different cultural restaurants. So we have a lot to offer for that group of people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Tran.
you for coming and do the presentation. My question is that do you have do you use the media system for advertising globally or?
I'm sorry, could you say that again, which system?
Do you use the media system for advertisement nationally and globally?
So I wouldn't say globally, but we do use it regionally, and we advertise in those cities that frequent our area the most. So Chicago, Nebraska, North and South Dakota. So we do some targeted media in those areas so that we can show them what we have to offer. We also give that newsletter to meeting planners throughout the country that are on our list, and it's about 6,000, so that they can be continually updated on what we are doing and what we have. We don't have a budget that's so large that we can do nationally. We also advertise in some publications so that we can make sure that we're doing that due diligence. And then we do apply for grants from time to time that allow us to increase our visibility. And one was for Gus Macker. We were able to advertise, and if you went into it actually on social media, you started to appear and see ads. So we're trying to do that a little bit more of targeting for specific events.
I saw that like tourists in other countries, they just use Facebook and they make very good successful victory. So why don't we? Because Facebook is not expensive.
Facebook isn't expensive, and we do advertise on Facebook. But your frequency could be very expensive. So it's not the actual ad, it's how frequent it is. And that's why I'm saying if we are having an event or having something, that's when you push that out to Facebook. But just to drive people to our website, and then what? So we're really trying to focus on events or partnerships with our hotels or businesses to say, what can we start doing? So.
And how is the benefit accounting to compare 2023, 2024?
So we are working with our board treasurer on how we're comparing 2023 to 2024 from an occupancy and an average rate perspective, from a visitor spend and also visitor frequency. And we look at that data on a monthly basis to determine how we're doing. There are reports that indicate how we did last year compared to this year and the variance, and then working with the hotels specifically on their budget so that we can budget correctly on what they are anticipating occurring in the city.
Can you tell us the 2023 and 2024, the arrow like up or down, or just?
What are you comparing? You mean an average rate and occupancy?
The profit.
The profit?
Yeah.
We're a nonprofit, so we don't make a profit.
So the hotel people, the tourists don't pay?
Yes, the tourists pay, but in terms of annually, do we make a profit? We don't. However, we have to make sure that we control our spending so that we don't have a deficit from the revenue that are in. So in 2023 and in 2024, we did not operate at a deficit, even though we did not make the anticipated lodging tax revenue in those years, but we then had to control expenses so that they would not be higher than the revenue that we brought in. 2025 is on track to be slightly down in terms of the lodging tax received, but we will manage expenses accordingly so that we will be okay. So it's hard to compare in those cities, and probably over 10 years ago, we had 11 cities that participated in Minneapolis Northwest tourism. So it truly was a Minneapolis Northwest. And then those cities started getting and developing their own destination marketing organization, and it was left with Maple Grove, Brooklyn Park, and Brooklyn Center. And then in 2020, right before the pandemic, Maple Grove started their own DMO, and it was solely just Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. So when you're looking at revenue from even 5 years ago, it's going to be different, because not only was there a pandemic, which caused a deep change in revenue, it was also a change in the cities that participated.
Thank you. And like you said from the beginning, you want a council member, city, more. So whenever you need help, you need them to let us know.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, again, thank you for the work you do. I know that you're beginning to focus more and more on the different cultural institutions we have in Brooklyn Park. We wanted you to play that up more, so thank you for leaning more and more into our strength. And I think that's going to be a differentiator that helps us long-term be competitive, so we very much appreciate it. All right, so next we are going to move to the legislative debrief presentation. We have our state lobbyist, Melissa Reed, is going to be leading this from Collective Efforts, and I know we had Troy Olson on, but he was unable to make it due to something with his personal matter. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, and